My daughter gave her father-in-law a brand new luxury car for his birthday. For my 65th, she handed me a cheap bottle of discount shampoo and told me I didn't deserve more. That was the moment everything changed. Her name is Lena Parker. My name is Howard Blake. And until that night, I believed being patient, quiet, and reliable would one day be enough. I was wrong. The humiliation started at Victor Hale's birthday party. Victor is Lena's father-in-law, a man who measures success in square footage and stock portfolios. His home sat at the edge of Ridgewood Heights, a neighborhood where lawns look like golf courses and smiles hide competition. String lights hung across the backyard. A jazz trio played softly. Crystal glasses clinked while conversations floated about investments, vacations, and private schools. I stood near the edge of the lawn, wearing pressed slacks and a simple button-down, feeling like background furniture. Lena's voice cut through the air. "Dad," she said loudly, smiling just enough to sting, "maybe one day you'll finally upgrade that old truck of yours." The laughter didn't come right away. People glanced at me first, waiting to see how I'd react. I forced a chuckle. Some of us still believe reliability matters. My hand tightened around my glass. Lena didn't stop. She turned to Victor with exaggerated affection, resting her hand on his arm. "You deserve the best, don't you, Evan?" Her husband, Evan Parker, nodded proudly. His watch caught the light as he raised his glass. "Only the best," he said. "That's why we went all out." Moments later, the crowd followed them toward the driveway. There it was, a sleek, midnight black luxury sedan, polished until it reflected the stars. Gasps rippled through the guests as Evan pressed a button and the headlights flashed on like a performance. "For the man who has everything," Evan announced. Victor laughed, stunned, running his hand along the hood like it was sacred. Applause followed, phones came out, smiles widened. I watched my reflection in the car's surface. Older, smaller, easily overlooked. Someone beside me muttered, "Your daughter sure knows how to make a statement." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. What no one there remembered was the old pickup Lena mocked. The same truck that carried her dorm furniture, the same truck that hauled boxes when she chased her first job, the same truck that never failed when she needed me. The party went on without me. When I tried to raise a toast, Evan cut me off with a smirk. "Let's keep it short. This night's about Victor." Lena laughed. I drifted away, my chest tight, wondering how my little girl had turned into someone who looked at me like an inconvenience. 3 days later, my 65th birthday arrived. I still believed she might make it right. The backyard filled slowly, neighbors, co-workers, old friends, folding tables, simple food, laughter that felt earned instead of rehearsed, thoughtful gifts stacked neatly, a book, a pie, a mug that said, "Best engineer ever." I smiled. I meant it. I kept watching the gate. 2 hours in, Lena and Evan arrived. They looked flawless. Designer clothes, perfect posture, out of place among real people. "Traffic," Lena said casually, air-kissing my cheek. Evan barely looked up from his phone. They stood apart from the group, whispering, observing, judging. Then Lena approached with a small gift bag. The crowd quieted. "This is for you," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I reached inside. A bottle of generic shampoo, a bar of soap. Silence fell hard. "You don't deserve more," Lena said with a tight smile. Evan laughed. My ears rang, my face burned. I forced a smile because that's what I'd always done. "Thank you," I said. Dinner was worse. Comments about my house, my life, my lack of ambition. Then Evan waved his hand and said, "Maybe that shampoo will help with the smell." Laughter sputtered. A child at the table looked confused. That's when I stood up. Enough. My voice shook the table. Plates rattled. Conversation stopped. They left in anger. The party dissolved. Pity replaced celebration. Later that night, alone, I stared at that gift bag and understood something clearly for the first time. This wasn't thoughtlessness. It was intentional. And I was done absorbing it quietly. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe and share where you're listening from. What happened next took patience, precision, and a lesson they never saw coming. The morning after my birthday, I woke to silence that felt heavier than the night before. The house looked the same, but something in me had shifted. The gift bag still sat on the coffee table, the shampoo bottle tilted sideways like it had been tossed there without care. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The message was already burned into me. I made coffee and sat on the porch, watching Ridgewood Heights wake up. Kids rode bikes, neighbors waved. Life went on as if nothing had happened, but for me, everything had. My phone buzzed. Not an apology, a notification. Lena had posted photos from my birthday, a close-up of the shampoo, a caption laughing about how some people don't know their place. Comments piled on fast, mocking, agreeing, applauding her cruelty. Worst father ever, so dramatic, ungrateful old man. I stared at the screen until my hands trembled. This wasn't private anymore. She hadn't just humiliated me in my own backyard. She had turned it into entertainment. I called her. She answered on the third ring, annoyed. "What?" she said. "Take it down," I said. "Now." She laughed. "Relax. It's the truth. You embarrassed yourself." "I'm not asking." "You don't control me anymore," she snapped and hung up. That was the moment I stopped reacting and started thinking. I left the house and walked to Main Street Cafe, the same place I'd gone for years. The smell of coffee grounded me. Familiar faces nodded. Rosa, the owner, poured my usual without asking. "Rough birthday?" she asked gently. I nodded. "You didn't deserve that," she said. Those words mattered more than she knew. As I sat there, scrolling through the comments again, something caught my eye. A reply Lena had liked. It mentioned the car she and Evan gave Victor. Someone joked about how generous they were, especially since Evan's company had been doing so well lately. That stuck with me. Evan's company hadn't been doing well. I knew that for a fact. I'd helped him years ago with a financial model when he was just starting out. The numbers didn't add up anymore. I finished my coffee and made a call. Martin Cole answered on the second ring. He was an old colleague, a retired forensic accountant, and one of the sharpest minds I knew. "I need you to look at something," I said. "Family trouble?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "and money." We met later that afternoon. Martin didn't rush. He never did. He spread documents across the table, bank records, shell accounts, transfers that jumped through 3 layers before landing somewhere they shouldn't. "This is sloppy," he said finally. "Bold, but sloppy." "What am I looking at?" I asked. "Your daughter and her husband didn't buy that luxury car," he said. "Victor did, without knowing it." My chest tightened. They moved funds from his accounts, forged authorizations, routed money through a holding company Evan controls. They wanted the credit without the cost. I leaned back slowly. The grand gesture, the applause, the mockery, all built on theft. Martin closed the folder. "If this gets out, it's not just embarrassing, it's criminal." I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I felt calm. For the first time since my birthday, I felt steady. Over the next few days, Lena called repeatedly, angry at first, then frantic. "People are turning on us," she said during one call. "Did you say something?" I said nothing. Victor called Evan into his office. Voices were raised. Accusations flew. Lawyers were mentioned. Word spreads fast in towns like Ridgewood Heights. Friends stopped commenting on Lena's posts. Invitations dried up. Smiles became polite and distant. Then Victor received an anonymous envelope. Inside were copies of everything Martin had shown me. No return address, no explanation. Just the truth. That night, my phone rang 23 times. I didn't answer. The next morning, Evan was suspended pending investigation. Lena posted again, accusing unnamed people of betrayal and jealousy. This time, the comments weren't on her side. Questions replaced praise. Doubt replaced loyalty. At the cafe, whispers followed her name. At the grocery store, people avoided eye contact. I kept walking my usual routes, drinking my coffee, living my quiet life. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was letting consequences breathe. One afternoon, Martin called. "They tried to pay me off," he said. "Offered cash to say the documents were fake." "And?" I asked. "I told them no," he said. "But they're scared now." That night, I sat in my study and opened an old leather notebook, the one I used to keep project notes in during my engineering days. I wrote down dates, names, facts. If Lena wanted war, she would get something colder than anger. She would get accountability, and she wouldn't see the final move coming. Before we continue, if this story has you hooked, make sure you're subscribed. What happens next is where everything turns, and the truth finally lands. By the time the lawsuit became public, Lena's version of events had already collapsed. The filing was brief, precise, impossible to spin. Defamation, financial misconduct, documented evidence attached. I didn't announce it. I didn't warn her. I didn't post online. I let the facts speak. Within hours, messages flooded her feed. Not sympathy this time. Questions, screenshots, people connecting dots she could no longer hide. Evan was fired 2 days later. Victor cut them off completely. No more access, no more protection, no more pretending. Ridgewood Heights shifted. People who once praised Lena crossed the street to avoid her. Invitations vanished. Friends stopped answering texts. The same social circle that rewarded arrogance now punished exposure. I watched it all quietly. One morning, the local paper landed on my porch. The headline sat above the fold. Corporate executive terminated amid financial scandal. Evan's photo stared back, hollow and unrecognizable. I folded the paper and set it down. An hour later, a car pulled into my driveway. Lena stepped out first. She looked smaller than I remembered, pale, her confidence gone, replaced with panic. She couldn't dress up anymore. Evan followed, stiff, silent. They stood there for a moment, like children, waiting to be scolded. "Dad," Lena said, her voice breaking, "please, we need to talk." I didn't invite them in. "You humiliated me," she continued. "You ruined us." I looked at her carefully. "No," I said, "you did." She started crying. Real tears this time, not the kind meant for an audience. "We didn't know," Evan said quietly. We thought you didn't matter anymore." That sentence landed harder than any insult before it. I remembered her at 8 years old running toward me after school, her trust absolute, her smile unguarded. That girl was gone. "You didn't think I mattered," I said calmly, "so you treated me like I didn't exist, like I was disposable." Lena reached for my arm. I stepped back. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's balance. You took, you mocked, you lied, and now you're facing the weight of it." She shook her head. "We're family." "Family doesn't humiliate," I said. "Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't turn cruelty into entertainment." Silence hung between us. Finally, I opened the door just enough to speak one last sentence. "You don't get to rewrite this." I closed it gently. They left without another word. That afternoon I packed a small suitcase. A cabin by the sea waited for me. Booked quietly, paid for with money I had earned, saved, and never flaunted. Before I left, Mary Ann, my neighbor, stopped by. "You stood your ground," she said. "About time." I smiled. I finally remembered who I was. The truck rolled down familiar streets, past homes I'd helped wire, sidewalks I'd shoveled, lives I'd supported quietly without applause. For years, I believed being useful was the same as being valued. It isn't. Respect isn't given because you're convenient. It's earned when you refuse to be diminished. As the road opened ahead, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because I won, but because I stopped losing myself. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share where you're listening from. Stories like this remind us that dignity matters, no matter your age, and standing up for yourself is never too late. Thank you for listening.